the best calls that I get are the guys that are looking for that help to become better. There's nothing more frustrating than somebody having an issue on a job, or, having a product issue or an application issue, something like that, but they don't want to listen or hear anything that I have to say.
Welcome to this episode of All Things Wood Floor. I'm Steve Diggins, your host, brought to you by Wood Floor Business. Today, our sponsor, Loba, who has sent us Tyler Myatt and Pyle. They're technicians from the East Coast and West Coast. We're going to just kick it around, talking Floor Pro stuff and finishing in the field. No time for any delay. It's been a while since we've done this. Let's be jumping right in. Floor pros around the world, you know I'm going to say it. Let's get to it. All right, Pyle and Tyler Myatt from Loba, welcome to All Things Wood Floor.
Thank you.
Good to be here.
Guys, let's you pick and choose. We can just fight back and forth. Tell me a little bit about Loba. Now, here in New England, we sell everything, and Loba has recently come to this part of the coast and spread all over the place. And tell me a bit about the company. I don't know anything about the history of the Loba company.
Well, it started in 1922. A small little town near Stuttgart, Ditzing.
Okay.
A family-owned, operated business for many years. Michael Fisher just retired this year, and now we have Alfred and Mario that are heading it up, running the company now.
So, Cash, you jumped right out of the gate. Tell me a little about you and your background, where you're located, what's going on. You're on the left coast, right?
I'm left coasty.
Every time your phone call comes up, it says Manteca, Stockton. It bounces all over the place.
Well, I like to keep myself covert. I like to keep everybody on their toes where I'm at. So I'm very close to those areas. What I like to say, if you're looking at a map of California, I'm like, if you put a bullseye on it, I'm right there in the middle.
Okay.
I'm about 2 hours east of San Francisco, 2 hours south of Sacramento, and about 5-6 hours north of LA.
And go back to before all this, Floor Pro, I assume you're in the business. Is that where you came from?
Yeah, I grew up in the business. I pretty much didn't have an option with that. It was in the blood. I'm fifth generation. My great-great-grandfather did it. My great-grandfather did it. My grandfather did it. My dad did it. Here I am.
Not one of them could talk any sense into you.
Well, they tried beating me with a 2x4.
You know how many people there's two ways to get in this. People like me will say, something happened, I wound up helping somebody, next thing I know I loved it, or your generation. Funny, the generational guys say, oh, I went nowhere near it, next thing you know, I'm helping, next thing you know, I'm running my place, I'm doing my own thing. How'd you start out? Did Dad put you behind some nailers, or was it sandy? Would they stick you with the edger?
Well, I started out in a diaper as a weight on a buffer.
Oh, you're the buffer jockey.
On the buffer. So I was the dead weight on the buffer for, I guess, the first years of my life, the formative years. And my dad, I got a great dad. He took me backpacking, camping, and to work. He kept me busy. He was, always there with me. So as a teenager, I was racking out, nailing floors up with him, sanding with him, scraping corners, edging. I did have an aspiration to get away from it for a while. I went and did that. I got into firefighting for a bit. I did get hired with that, and I was doing that full time, and just life just kind of took a left turn with it, where I just kind of had to do some reevaluation and went back into the family business.
So NASCAR people go around the world to the left, like from being a baby on a buffer. Do you always heel right, heel right, heel right?
Right, yeah.
when you got a guy riding your buffer, somebody's digging in for something. You got to know that. So now, Tyler, what's your story over there? You're on my coast.
I'm on the East Coast. I'm based out of our headquarters here, just outside of Charlotte,
okay,
North Carolina. Similar to Cash, but not quite as much history. So I'm second generation floor guy. My father started a company here in Charlotte, late 80s, something like that. But again, grew up in the industry. So started working when I was young with him, helping out wherever I could as a little kid. then started working summers and really learning the industry as a preteen young kid. And he kind of treated me a little bit, it wasn't the boss's kid kind of thing. He taught me the basics and then sent me out with the crews, right? So it was a true learning experience. Really, they weren't giving me any slack by any means.
Probably worse.
I did that for a while, a few summers, things like that, working. And then when I finished up playing some junior college baseball, I decided to finish up school and started working with Dad full time while I was finishing up, and fell in love with it. Like most dads, he didn't want me to have anything to do with the industry. He saw the volatility of 08, 10, through the industry. And so he took all the fun jobs, all the stuff, and one to keep the company afloat, and two to kind of push me away, and it kind of bit him in the butt, and I ended up loving it.
You got in the crash of like 7, 8. Oh wow.
Yeah. So that was kind of when, so just, keeping us afloat, keeping the company going, that kind of stuff was, so we're taking everything, right? All the little stuff, all the things just to get cash flow. And I ended up loving it.
I got in at the same time, but way before you guys. But it actually wound up being opportune because I could have had a really bad job in a lot of really bad places, but not like what I could do flooring. I got the independence of doing it. I loved working with wood. And like you said, It sounds so ridiculous when people say it, but they mean it. I loved it. To this day, I like walking on a construction site, the smell of the place, the smell of the wood, the whole deal. Yeah. It's something. So what do they throw at you like first? Like, how old were you?
When I first started full time, I was probably 16, 17, or 17 probably. And then, full on at about 18.
So it's a little different down south because sometimes, you tell me, depending on how far south. When I went down to Florida and set up operations, if they were locals, they were either an installer or a finisher. If they were both, they were from New York or Jersey or Boston. Did your company do everything?
So we had a little bit of everything. So when he was at his biggest, when he was the largest that he got, it was very much separated out into install crews, sanding crews, even into finishing crews, guys that just coated floors.
Okay.
As we evolved and things like that, guys kind of got into where they could do everything. On my end, as I went in full time and I entered the industry for real, it was everything. So I learned everything from small repairs, touch-up repairs, install, sand, finish, the whole works through and through. And that was really a big part of, keeping us going was knowing everything. So, But you're right. In the industry, it seems to be in the South that, guys are definitely an installer or a finisher.
It's one or the other. Yeah, and Cash, I talk every now and then with people on your side of the country, and sometimes it seems different, sometimes it doesn't. Does that sound any different for you?
No, generally if you're hard, that's the hard vernacular to figure out is like when you say you're a hardwood floor guy. If you're a real hardwood floor guy on the West Coast, you probably do install and sand and finish. There's not a lot of just sand and finish guys. There are some bigger companies where they try to keep their crews separate, but for the most part, a lot of the guys out here are little one-man shows, and they do the install and the sand and finish of it.
How do you connect with Loba? Where does this all come from?
Well, my connection with it started with Instagram, I guess. I was seeing guys using it, and that piqued my interest. And it was through Instagram that I kind of made the first connection, trying to reach out to, hey, I want to try this stuff out. My dad teases me because I'm kind of the experimental one with the family.
Good for you.
He's all about try and true, and I'm like, hey, let's try something else. There might be an easier way to do this. But yeah, so I saw Loba kind of getting some stuff on Instagram, and start tracking it down that way. And then Dave Davenport, the rep at the time over here, he made a connection with me, and then just got talking. And then he said, we're looking for somebody around here in this area. And I said, look.
How quick do you leave your company? I mean, you must have been busy. How quick? Because did you leave that right to the family? Like, you didn't just close up shop and go?
No, I just passed off everything to Dad, and
okay,
it was kind of an easy handoff that way.
Yeah, funny you say that. No, Tyler. When did this happen for you with the Loba thing?
For me, for when I started using it, or when I transitioned into the company.
Yeah, when did you go? I'm going to stop doing whatever I'm doing, and I'm going to go work with Loba.
That was not on my forefront at all. I was perfectly happy being a contractor for the rest of my life. So I knew Don Jewell pretty well. He's our head of technical. And as the opportunity, as he was building out the department, he started putting feelers out for positions and things like that. And he actually asked my dad, who do you know anybody that would be, good for this position? And I don't know why, for whatever reason, my father said my name, and it was kind of it was a don't mess with me, don't joke around, I'll take him kind of thing, and it ended up working out. It was a big decision on my end because as my dad's looking to start retiring, that kind of stuff. It was a difficult one to make, but it was definitely an opportunity that I couldn't miss. So.
It's so great though, because Dad, don't complain, man. You sent me packing, so
exactly.
I don't want to hear
exactly
it's hard over there.
Oh yeah, no, he that's exactly what he said. He was more than supportive of all of it. He was definitely the one saying, this is a big deal, this is a big opportunity, and really be foolish to pass it up. So, is
it pretty much you set up your schedule, you meet with contractors, you show them product, or do you go right out to the actual job site? Is that easier than in a studio or something? You guys fight over who wants to talk to me first. Go.
I go to the job site.
Okay,
I love it, and that's where I want to be. I'm not as a contractor, I wasn't ever huge on the demo days, the tabletop stuff. Everyone, I didn't need free stuff, and I know that you can make stuff look good on a panel in a controlled environment like that. I want to know how's it going to make me money on the job site, and that's kind of the way I look at it with the contractors is let's go to job site, let's make some money with the product.
What's the difference between your job and you do the same thing on different coasts, or your job's kind of different?
My job's very different from Cash's.
So. How?
So Cash is our West Coast or sales representative or technical sales rep for that area. I work in the technical department. So where Cash is on site, he's with the contractors. He's helping them in the field. I do a little bit of that. If we have a contractor or somebody that's having a little bit of trouble or job site problem, things like that, I can go out and assist or evaluate that kind of thing. But as in the technical department, I deal more with our technical trainings that we host at our facility, any kind of product development, that kind of stuff that we need eyes on, testing, things like that. I test material, see if there's issues or things that we can improve on, things like that. I work more in line with our German colleagues in their technical department as well to, again, product tests and things like that we do.
So how much time do you spend, Cash, behind different machines during the day? Is it mostly at the coding portion, or do you let the contractor do that and then you jump in and maybe share how to code, or do you have to do a whole project with them?
I'll go from install to sand to the coding. That's just usually we just coordinate. Last week I worked with some guys and we went all the way from the sanding stage to stain to finish. To me, it is about getting on the job site. It's, being a resource for the contractors. I think in essence too, it's so that they know that I know the job. I know what I'm doing. I'm not just a guy trying to push product on them. Right. It's I've got answers and solutions for it. And I've been here, I've been in this, I tell some guys, I've been in the trenches with you, and I've been in the trenches where I felt like I was all alone, and I tell the contractors, I don't want you to ever feel alone in the trenches. We're all I've been here, I've been in this pain together. let's get down and let's create some dust and get some finish on this. So
it is the trenches, and with the Loba line is completely water based. Right, there's nothing else going on there. You don't have an oil or.
Yeah, we don't do any oil modified. We have a penetrating oil, but everything else is all water-based product, yeah.
How did they plan all this? How did you get this going in this country?
Well, I think that started out with that was the Germany is where that began there, where they decided to go international. Okay. And when they made that decision, that wasn't, obviously the Germans very methodical. They like to think and plan out what they're going to do. And for the U.S. side of the market, in Germany, Loba and Wakol are two separate companies. Mm-hmm. But the U.S., they're combined, and we're the Loba-Wakol USA. So that was the beginning of that, making that partnership to jump to the States. And then as far as not playing around, they have a solid product. They're the first 2-component waterborne finish for wood floors. They're the leaders in that. They created that. Everybody else kind of followed suit with it. That's not really well known here in the States, because when that took place, that was in Germany. That was in the European market. So by the time they got to the U.S. market, I think they've already developed a pretty good palette of finishes and things that they're competitive, but not only they're legitimately really solid products. I like to use the car analogy, because everybody likes cars, fast cars, 4x4s, whatever. Cars are awesome.
Tyler's in one right now. He's broadcasting from his car.
See, the cars are awesome. You got a high performance car, everybody's going to love it. And that's really what Loba is. It's a high performance finish that it works. It works really well. It looks like dynamite when it's on a floor.
What is this magical thing in today's finishes that these things look like they were sprayed on an hour after it looked like you screwed up?
Fairy dust.
Yeah, I knew it. Exactly. Right? Oh, I knew they were real.
No, in all honesty, I think, one, it's a great product, right? It gives you time to work with it.
Right.
But I also think a lot of it has to do with education on how to apply the finishes, right? So knowing what we're doing now, knowing not to overwork a finish as we're applying it, knowing to let the water base lay out, knowing that if we go back and touch it 3, 4, 5, 10 times, all we're doing is hurting it. And that was at first, when guys were first getting into using water bases, they're used to oil bases. And what can you do with an oil base, man? It's got years to dry.
Yep.
And you can touch it as many times, you can go back and mess with it. We've learned, let it go, let it do its thing. And for so much of, so many things across the industry, that helps with this.
You see that now. I'll do a consultation. I'll look and I could show you and 9 other guys this photo I got the other day, and you'd say they skipped grits. And maybe you got away with that with oil, not with water, right? You got to have the right sanding sequence, correct? Do you see that? We see it all the time now. People go from 40 to 80, and they go, I don't know what's wrong with your product.
I think that's a trend of the colors that we're doing now too.
Yep.
Right. So, in the old days when we were doing all 2 1/4 red oak and they were all going natural oils, we could do 40/100 and just, go about it and not really have a problem. But now we're getting into much more craftsmanship with our floors. Okay. We're doing a lot of water popped ebonies and really dark Jacobines and things like that. And your sanding just in general has to be on point. I don't know if it's a fact that the water-based finish itself will show more, or if it's just the colors, or maybe it's just guys are paying more attention to it than what we used to pay attention to.
So I used to do a seminar on this. So you wash your car in your driveway, and and you move it, and it's a hot sunny day, and the soap's gone, and the water's gone, but the last 5 years worth of oil is still sitting on your driveway. Guys that will go out can skip grits. They throw oil down, and it just fills everything. The sealer's the same color as the poly. There's nothing going on, but you put a water base down. Now you're ripping that grain wide open. You're cutting it back. You're balding off the surface. You throw the next coat of whatever. If it isn't identical in color, you're going to see everything halo
absolutely.
effect.
If you're refinishing,
right?
Absolutely. You're taking off an old oil base, absolutely.
What are the components that you guys have? We added a bunch of stuff. I can't even remember what it was, but that you have 2 or 3 little components that can go in with your finish. What are those?
The additives.
Yeah,
so
additives.
we have So we're calling them additives. The most popular is going to be our whitener. And it does what it says. It's a whitener. You put it in, it can go into any of the coats or all of the coats. So you're versatile on what you're doing, brightness wise, whether you just want a little bit of light to it, or if you want a solid white floor or a much brighter white floor, you can get there with that. The other one is Argo, which is an amberizer, forgive me. And it does what it says it does. It adds a little bit of color to that finish, gives you more of an, let's say exactly oil look, but more of an oil look, and more of an amber tone to the finish. Can help a lot with, certain stains and things like that to give a deeper, richer look out of it.
Right.
We have Argo, which is it's a extender. So for the dry, like you guys are probably very interested in that, and that the drier climates where you need that extra working time.
Pellet stoves, wood stoves, dry heat.
Yep. Dry heat, drier climates, things like that. Denver's a really popular area where they need it a lot. You guys in the upper, Northeast are going to need it a lot. It will double the time that you would otherwise have without it.
And what do they
right? So
call
there's not
this?
a
What do
set,
they call it?
it's Argo, Argo, Argo.
But what is like the generic term? Argo is a what?
Is an extender.
Extender.
Is kind of how I would phrase it. I don't know, Cash, do you have a different word for it?
No, you're good because we had them for years in England. We can't say it anymore. We used to call them retardas. They used to say make sure you put a retarder in because it slows everything down and because you need that
Yep.
working time. But so and since Hollywood here is the handsome one of us, what's your day like? Is it's not the same as Tyler's? So Cash, what is it? What's your day like? You get up, you get out, you get rolling. What are you doing?
I usually get out, hit a few of the distributors, see what the branches got going on, and go talk to contractors. Get on the job site with contractors. That's usually my goal, is just to get on a job site with a contractor. I want to work side by side with them, see what they're going through, what they're doing for the day, and
you got to get product in their hand, right? There's no other way to do this.
Yeah, no, yeah, and it's, to me, the proof's in the pudding, so to speak. Like, always get it in their hands, get it on the floor. Let them work with it and see if it fits their wheelhouse. Because, like you said, everyone's got a different technique or style of how they sand and finish a floor, and so they've got to see if our product hits with the style that they do their work. And so that's really what I want to do, is like, here, try it out.
Are you seeing in the field with your contractors, they're all set up differently? The equipment-wise, what are you seeing out there? What do people have?
I mean, it's all over the place. You have one or two guys, the old school guys, that are just a buffer, edger, and a big machine. That's really your old school guy. Then you've got the guys that they're branching out. They've got like the Hydra or the multi-disc. They're going with the planetary, or leaning towards that planetary direction, but not quite there yet.
Yep.
I've got a few guys that they're 100%. They've got the big machine, they got the edgers, but they just bring out the planetary, and that they hit their jobs with that. I think that they're, the demographic of hardwood floors in California does change quite a bit, depending on which direction you go. You go 2 hours towards the coast, and you got a lot of multi-level, a lot of stairs, a lot of narrow, small rooms. So that the planetary fits in perfect there. They get it in there and do what they need to do without having to bring a lot of machines in. My area is a lot of farming community, a lot of dairy farmers and ranchers that got big houses, 5,000 square foot houses, big rooms. And it's like, you'd be there for months if you had to sit there and go with a planetary. But, you rough it off with the big machine, and then come in with the planetary, smooth it out, get it flat.
I just tried to do one like that with the planetary, and it was doing a great job, but it would have taken a while. But when I went into 2 cuts and then wrapped up with the planetary, that was a dream. I'm like, this.
Yeah.
Talk about getting a floor flat.
Dials it in like piano surface almost.
Yeah, it really raises the bar. But then, the first time I didn't have one. I'd been out of the industry. I went out, I looked at a floor inspection. I go, this is a rotary machine. And he said, how do you know? I have no idea, but I've never seen this scratch pattern. It's like tic-tac-toe, 4 inches wide. It has to be something big honking through here. And it was a rotary machine. And people, they get the learning curve, right? This guy didn't vacuum enough on his drum cuts, and now his rotary machine is picking up 36 grit, and it's defeating the whole purpose. So we need guys like you out in the field constantly to look for those little things that people aren't aware are coming down the pike. Even Tyler, when you're out there in the field, you must see a level where, okay, well, this guy's learning, this guy's a pro, there's a big curve in there, right?
Very much so. Very much a big curve. And I think there will always be that gap between guys. But yeah, I think right now the industry seems to be in a transition of sanding styles, where it's you're either on either side, right? You're either going that way to all planetary, or still old school and it, just big machining it all the way through. And I think that jump is definitely causing some headaches for some guys, and kind of scaring some away even. But for the guys that are really sticking it out, I think they're getting a beautiful floor with it once they figure it out.
when I do a lot of technical work, and I know there are people all over the country that I have to go to, because sometimes I'll say I just don't trust my opinion on this, or maybe it's something I've never seen. You must have resources within your area, or even whether it's your father or it's a Loba Tech department or whatever, that you guys can go to if something just doesn't seem quite right for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we got a deep network of people. And, knowing all the contractors, I utilize our sales force as well, local guys and Germany and our technical support over there, technical team over there to have we'll get an answer. If I don't know, we'll definitely get an answer. We'll figure it out.
One thing I got to say with Loba is that everybody in the company, from Tyler to all the sales reps, they've all been in the industry. They've been behind the machines. Right. So that in itself, you get a plethora of knowledge and experiences with the guys that, like, you can run into something and call any one of them. You'll get some sort of response back or help with, like, hey, yeah, we've seen that. Like, I got a Mike in Colorado. Oh yeah, it's dry cupping, or he'll have an answer for it because he sees it. I joke around, for California, we don't have adverse swings in weather. I don't get a huge humidity swing or a dry season. I mean, Tahoe, Reno area is kind of high desert, but it's still not as extreme as like what the East Coast guys see.
Okay.
And so I joke around, man, I couldn't do floors for a living back in the East Coast. Like, I full trowel. Like, I know there's a lot of guys that are like, oh, you can't full trowel because, once the winter comes, it's all going to gap out. And I'm like, winter comes? Our floors cup in the winter. What are you guys talking about?
Boy, right, Tyler? People come in and they go, all right, you got to give me 2 gallons of white oak fill. Like, no, not where we live. Where are you going with that?
Yeah, if we want to go down that road, we can get into humidifiers and keeping moisture in houses, but that's the only way you're stopping it. Wood is wood and it'll move, and seasonally it changes drastically for everybody except for cash.
We had a warehouse in Florida, and we didn't touch it because it's always like 13%. But in New Hampshire, we go from almost zero in a home up to, it's just ridiculous. And that scale between 35 and 55% humidity, it could go past in either direction. Filling something is not a good idea. You literally have to time when the floor is going in and make sure you've timed it properly. Big problem we have is the builder. I got to get this done. Just get in there, just get it done. And the floor person saying, this is the wrong time for this floor.
Yeah, getting that basic knowledge of your region, your area, what's best for your abilities in that area, I think is really taken for granted. Knowing, like, I know our Charlotte area extremely well. Growing up here, I know exactly what the moisture is supposed to be for our general area year round. And I know exactly what it's supposed to be in January, just like in June. But the difference is I also know what our subfloors are supposed to be, and I know what our crawl spaces are supposed to be, and I know what the humidifier is supposed to be set to, or how each humidifier works to then affect the floor. And not knowing that, or not knowing that basic knowledge and being able to control your environment, you're going to have a lot of problems. And guys that go in and just, that's the hard fought battle, right? Of just listening to your contractor or your builder, like, man, I got to get it done. Okay, well, I'll do it, but not getting a good product at the end of the day. It's a tough battle. That's one that I think everybody, or I know everybody, is really dealing with, learning how to navigate that.
And people today have money and expectations. I think, well, I have money, so this floor should be what I want it to be. Well, it depends. There's a range of how people install, sand finish, the quality, the workmanship. Like you said, the range is so ridiculously vast. Are there certain things that get contractors in trouble? Are there a few things that you just spot right away, like, oh, here we go? Is there a way to avoid them, and what are they?
There's a lot of things.
I know, right?
Now, the first one is like Tyler's talking about, like, people. Well, even what you're saying, like, well, I've got money and I have expectations. That itself that's a slippery slope. Like, you can throw as much money you want at to it, but you got to give it. The thing with hardwood floors is they take time, and just because you have money, you can't buy time, and that comes down to acclimation of the project. it has to be acclimated. If it ain't acclimated, you're going to be in a world of hurt no matter what.
Well, you said manage the homeowner's expectations, right? That's a really good point. How do you normally do that? You're like, I'm getting into this job. Before we even get into it, you're right. Manage their expectations a bit. How do you approach that?
Hey, this is it's a living, breathing thing. Like you're putting a tree in your house right now. If you want to water it, it's going to start growing. Like it's pretty much that simple. So with managing, a client expectation, you're not, and this goes back to my car analogy. A Rolls Royce takes 6 months to build. It takes a Toyota I think 6 hours.
Right.
So you're not getting an LVT floor. You're not getting a plastic floor here. You're getting a work of art. And that comes into like the wood that you bought, the contractor that's working on it, because that in itself, every contractor, like we've already said before, is that every contractor has a different style of how they sand and finish. And that means that they're going to put their signature on that floor. Like, yeah, in general, floors are flat and they look shiny. That's the general aspect of it. But you can walk in and I can tell a floor my dad's done. I've walked in on jobs and, I don't know. I haven't been on the job, but like I know my dad did this. Or like I've walked in on jobs and, oh yeah, your dad did this. And I'm walking in and I'm like, my dad did not do this job. Like I know what my dad does.
This episode of All Things Wood Floor is brought to you by Loba-Wakol. Loba-Wakol focuses on the development and manufacturing of industry-leading products for residential and commercial construction. The Loba product line includes water-based finishing products, natural oils, stains, repair kits, sandpaper, maintenance cleaners, and industrial coatings. The Wakol product line includes substrate preparation products, sound dampening, moisture control, and adhesives. For more information on the product line, visit www.loba-wakol.com. That's LOBA-WAKOL. Now let's get back to our conversation with Loba-Wakol's Cash and Tyler.
I'm going to write a book called The Floor Tells the Story. That should be the name of this podcast. It does, right? Isn't that true?
Oh,
true. Well, like any contractor has a little signature of just like you can tell Van Gogh from Picasso.
Yeah.
Totally two different artists.
That one I could tell, I think.
I think so. I think you can tell Impressionism versus Rembrandt. But that's the thing with hard floor. It's the same kind of scenario. You're going to have guys that, they leave marks that's their signature. So that's part of the expectation with the client is there's a whole lot that goes into it. And the higher their expectation, the more they need to realize, that takes time.
Sounds like, these guys got to know their limitations, right? So doesn't that give you guys the opportunity to go in and say, all right, listen, do you do that? Do you kind of privately talk with contractors and coach them up a bit? I know no one likes to throw anybody under the bus. I'd like to, get them outside or get them on the phone and say, I need to tell you what I saw here. And if you don't fix it, someone not as nice as me is going to come in and point it out to everybody.
Get ahead of this. I mean, that happens.
Doesn't it?
Where it's like, hey, like the way to do this right, you got to solve this problem now before it gets into, gets messy and gets legal. Like, sometimes some guys just don't read the client either. That's the hard part. They don't even understand what the expectation is of the client. And that changes from client to client. That's really the hardest part of this job is to figure out each job what the homeowner is expecting when they walk away or when you walk away.
Sure, if you want to get paid. Tyler, when you were doing flooring, right, before you even started in the morning, did you basically dream about it the night before or the time you got in the truck, you already knew what you were doing? Most floor guys will say, right? Yeah, explain that.
Never stopped. Yeah.
Right?
It was, I was wrapping up tools that day thinking about what I was doing the next.
You do an install at 7 o'clock in the morning or something, my partner pull up and we'd be half asleep. I'd go, starting at the front door, not the back. Yep. Don't want to end up at the heaters, right? Got it. Snap a line across the middle, make sure we meet up. Yep, got it. Yeah. I'm telling you, if you guys work together,
old machine.
Wow, isn't it interesting? I don't care if it's sanding or install. I bet you get in a room and you just go. and it's a partnership. You know where to. Don't you guys find that I can join a good floor guy and boom, we're up and running.
Yep. And there might be minor differences, but no one having the trust in whoever you're working with to do the job, and knowing, if I'm going to do this, if I'm edging, I know that he's scraping corners, or I know that he's, got the machine over here, or he's satelliting, or, whatever he's doing, and that I need to move on to this one. You become more efficient, one, but, you become better, right? You create a better floor when you don't have to sit there and talk to somebody all directions on, hey, I need you to do this, 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 and this. It becomes, you start looking at them instead of what you're paying attention to, what's hurt your work.
How many floors have you guys done in your career that you absolutely remember was perfect?
Not a one.
No. Right? He's laughing.
There is no perfect floor.
Right? I never walked away from a job and said, well, they look nice, or did a really great job, but I will go, there's that corner, there's the thing, we don't live in a vacuum frame, right? It's It's not like I'm a perfectionist, but it can be better here or there.
Yeah. Well, that's what strives us to be better, floor guys, right? Wood guys.
Oh, yeah.
If you're not trying to be better, you're not listening. And that, on my end, the best calls that I get are the guys that are looking for that help to become better. There's nothing more frustrating than somebody having an issue on a job, or, having a product issue or an application issue, something like that, but they don't want to listen or hear anything that I have to say. It's like, look, I'm trying to help you. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm not trying to do anything to belittle you. I'm trying to help you be a better contractor and have a better job at the end of the day, and, to get paid and move on to the next one.
Yeah, I do a lot of consulting. I get in there and I know immediately I'm the enemy and I'm there to start trouble, and I try to let them know, listen, this is a fellowship. I just want to get everybody out of trouble, get these floors done, and I want everybody's life to go back to their own life in the next few days. There's no litigation. There should be no lawyers. This is a floor. We can do this. Between a scale of 1 to 10, it's either a screen and coat, or we got to rip this thing out, which is very, very, very rare. Cash, when you're looking out there and you're working with these contractors, do you think they got a grip on their value or what they should be charging? Some of them have no idea what to charge or how good they are.
That's weird, but I want to back up to what you just said about where we're going to rip this floor out or just buff and coat it.
Yeah.
That happened the other. I was on a job site with a contractor, and he was just like, what I appreciate about you, Cash? You never walk in and act like it's the end of the world. Like,
right?
You got a problem, and you're like, well, we'll just bring out the edger and we'll touch that part up, or we'll fix that, or you're just like, oh, that's a resend, and you don't even qualm about it. You're just like, you're already grabbing the machine, and you just redo it, and you get right back into it, and you don't act like it's the end of the world. And I said, well, because it isn't. Like, if you waste more time him-hawing back and forth of what you're gonna do. You just got to make a decision and look at it. Like you said, well, do we have to tear it out? And many times with a sand and finish, you don't have to tear a floor out. You just got to, like, if you stained it round, you got some swirls or whatever, you either learn to touch those spots up, but if it's the whole thing, you got scratch everywhere. You're like, well, guess we got to polish it off a little better, get a little finer grit.
You're saying the floor, and people think that if you have to come back and touch up something, that they've lost all the wood in their floor.
Yeah.
It's not a machine shop where they sand it every 5 hours. You could sand the floor a lot of times before you would get through to the cleats and the nails and everything.
Yeah, and a lot of times the resand is just you're just barely taking it. Like, you already sanded it flat. You already got it already at a good pace or a place. It's just not acceptable yet. It's just a little touch up.
Well, let me ask you this: what with when you were sanding floors, or when you do it now? All right. Let's say that you were at your own house and you're going to do a 500-foot big living room with your big machine. How many times each you guys think that you would cut that floor with the big machine?
Oh, only with a big machine?
Yeah, just that part of it, just the big machine, before you get to everything else.
I do 3 times. Okay. I'm touching it with 3 papers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, at least.
I've done 3, 4, 5, and I've had people go, you're crazy. My guys cut it twice. We are out of here. We don't have time. Well, that's one way to do a floor, but I don't think it's the pro way to make it look good, right?
I've experimented. I know that there's a lot of different ideas out there, but I played around with it, and I always go back to my coarse, medium, and fine cut. I've tried it, and it's more efficient to just do that than to go real fast with a coarse grit, and then to go real slow with a fine grit to dial it in.
Right. How about you, Tyler? Similar thing with cutting up a floor?
Yeah. If I'm only using a big machine, I'm not getting anything else involved at least. Right. Yeah. You've got to have either that rough grit to fine grit. You got it jumping, like Cash said, jumping from really rough to really fine. Man, it's going to take so long. You have to go walk so slow behind that machine to get those marks out. Or you don't care about your marks enough, and you're going to have application issues or stain issues or finish issues. Just, if you're looking for quality work, 3 times minimum, at least.
I've seen people I'll go on a job site and they'll go, look at this, is my machine. Whatever, pick a name, is terrible. And you go, no, you cut with 36 and 80. This tracking did not come from your machine. This is from you. And then they can't lie. They'll be like, well, I do it all the time. Like, oh, so you're admitting that you, okay, great.
That's great. Another thing. You mentioned tracking. How many guys don't touch their machines ever? Right?
None. Now, I have people drop them off at my house. And it's an Allen wrench, right?
Yeah.
I have people that track their belts so far inside, it cuts the bearings off. One guy tracked his belt until it cut a belt-shaped door and opened up his door because he just kept fighting with it instead of cleaning the upper roller assembly. Somebody comes in with a bad tracking, I'll go, sand a pine floor yesterday? They go, oh yeah, how'd you know? Well, you look up in your upper roller, clean it. These guys don't even know. I had a guy own a brand new $3,000 vacuum, and he goes, don't work anymore. And I look at it, he had never, ever, ever emptied the filter. Couldn't see the filter. It was packed and it started to catch fire. I mean, you guys see some craziness out there, right?
Oh yeah.
I love it. Oh yeah.
Yeah. No short supply of that.
Like what? Give me some. You having it? I want to hear it. If you got it, I want to hear it.
Ash, I'll let you go first.
I seen a flight guy put in a floor upside down twice.
I have only seen that once, and it was like that was the befuddled part. Like what? Like so you're gonna try and sand all those tracks off that the slots through there?
I had one they had not really cut into the hollow back. And so it kind of looked flat, except for it's rounded, right? And then I took a pencil, and it said like NAFMA, and you're like, this is upside down. How did you pull this off? I have to tell you, I had a guy that called. I thought I was an idiot because he goes, I'm walking on the floor. It's rippling this way. It's rippling that way, and I go, wow. All right. I go, how did you install this wide plank in a basement on a lake? He goes, dry fit, dry lay. And I go, excuse me? He's like, dry fit, dry lay. I go, oh, cool. All right. Give me a second. I can't look like an idiot. I went out to my car. I called Howard Brickman and I go, Howard, is there such a thing as dry fit, dry lay? He goes, is it a click lock? I go, no, it's wide plank. It's pre-stained, pre-finished. He goes, no. There isn't. Go back in there. I go in and I go, how did you put it in? He started on the wall, knocked it all in, and when he got to the other side of the basement, he put Tapcon and screwed the last one in. The whole floor is just sitting there. And the realtor goes, thinking what I'm thinking, I go, the easiest reinstall ever? Yeah, pick it up, glue it, pick it up, glue it, pick it. That's crazy.
At least they didn't waste any money on that one.
Yeah, no. I've seen people staple into concrete. These aren't working.
I've seen guys put their backpacks on upside down. I don't know if you remember those old. They were the blue. They used just a canvas bag. I can't remember the name of the vacuum.
Yep,
they're popular back in the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm. Wearing them upside down.
Wearing it upside down with the bag blown up around over his head. Walked into that. I was like, wow. How does that even feel right?
I had a guy edging a closet with no bag, smoking a cigarette, right?
I was going to say, I just driving through the neighborhood one day and thought a house was on fire. A guy was running a big machine with no bag.
Oh man. Listen.
All the doors open. It was just billowing out.
I haven't done this in a while because it's been crazy. I love you guys. So I've been saving this. I was going to put it in the book, but this is my favorite, and it happened a while ago. A good buddy of mine said he hired a kid for the weekend because, that he can nail. So they racked everything out for him, and they left him everything, and they said, if you want to come in Saturday, they already nailed 4 feet. They go, just nail away. Everything's cut. Just go to town. So he called me and said, you got to see this. And it was just gapped and wobbled all over the place and everything, and I didn't get it. The guy says to me, you're not going to believe this one. I go, what happened? He goes, I asked this kid, what's going on here? And I started kicking the boards, and they're just popping out, and they look stapled. You could see the marks. There wasn't a single one in there, and we're kicking board after board. And he says to the kid, what'd you nail this with or staple it with? And he goes, the gun you gave me and the compressor. And he goes, well, what did you put in, for staples? And he goes, whatever comes out of the hose. He thought the compressor put staples through the hose that went into the gun. Nothing. That is so amazing.
Yeah, no, there's some no accounting for common sense sometimes. Of like, what's that thing? Common sense ain't so common.
Right. No, it is not. How do and we were talking about. It's all over the map everywhere. I know guys that install for $1.50, and most guys are $2.50, and if it's pre-finished, maybe $3.50 and $4.50. Why is it like that where you guys are? It's all over the map.
Yeah, no, it's all over the map here too.
What is that about?
I think that's just people I think that's undervaluing themselves. Then, the thing that I think I've seen with that the most right now is with grinding, floor prep. Like guys will grind a floor and they'll do it for almost for free instead of like self-leveling a floor, which because they think the material costs. Oh, I got to pay for all this leveler. It costs too much. But I'm like, well, how many days do you spend grinding it? And they're like, oh, just 3 or 4 days, like 3 or 4 8-hour days. And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, how much? Like, what did you charge for that? Oh, I just threw in like a couple $100. And it's like, are you like you literally wasted 3 or 4 days grinding away, and you're not willing to put into that bid or to even to contemplate just self-leveling it. Which, like, if you learn how to self-level, it's light years easier on the body than trying to grind a floor where you're sucking up silica concrete dust for 3 or 4 days.
I think a lot of that too is just what contractors are familiar with, right? Wood guys as a whole seem to be a little bit more nervous about using a leveler or something like that, but they're comfortable behind a machine. So you give them a machine and they're okay with grinding it. But I think getting guys comfortable with floor prep is huge because it will save them time, it will save them money, give them a much better product in the end.
They're giving away their labor, their time behind that machine, pennies on the dollar. They're not realizing that that was all your time that you're never going to get back. That's actually what you're there for. Like those guys are $250 a foot sand and finishing floors. That's including their finish. That's including their sandpapers. That's including their filler if they're filling it. There's so much to that takes that $250 down to where you're making, what are they making, $1 a foot after all the material and product is put down on that floor.
And then the customer wants a really good finish that's $145 a gallon. And then think about that one either. Or you know what we had? The distributor drove me crazy. Is come in, get a screen. Come in tomorrow, get a screen. Come in, return 2 screens. Come in tomorrow. You're a pro. Like fill the van up.
One belt out of a box.
All the gas to get to the job.
Yeah.
That truck takes a small loan nowadays.
Right.
Do you like Tyler? Do you kind of how do you get in there and set somebody up on a job so that when they're done, the product was done right? Nothing worse than trying to teach somebody something and show them how great your product is. They massively screw it up and they think your product's terrible. That's how do you set things up?
I observe it first, so I try to show up. If I'm showing up for a finish help, I'll come in, introduce myself, say hi, whatever we're going to do for the morning. But I just kind of look, observe what's going on. How's the guy vacuuming is he vacuuming the floor before the final coat? Are they using a Tampico brush? Are they, where's the finish at? Is it cold outside? Is it in the house? Is it, is it in the middle of the summer and it's sitting in the truck. What does our applicator look like? Are we T-barring? Are we rolling? What is that kind of stuff going on? And I'll go from there. I don't want to come in and try to rule the roost because, there's nothing worse than somebody coming in and just, getting at every little thing. But, I normally try to have everything that we'll need as well on me. I'll have some rollers. I'll have some roller poles. I'll have some buckets, liners, things like that. I'll have, if I think we're going to need extra finish, things like that, I'll bring those with me. And maybe while they're prepping or vacuuming, I'll take, lead guy, whoever the crew leader is or the owner, whoever we're dealing with, like, hey, here's our stuff. You guys can, we can use this today if you like, unless their stuff just looks really good. Most guys are always going to love using new stuff or new free equipment, right? So, so then we're going through there, and I'll kind of just ask them, hey, how would you normally go about your day? What would you normally do to coat this for? Where would you normally start? And we'll just adjust from there. I'll ask them what they normally do if they're, what do they normally use to finish wise, or what are they normally, procedure wise, who does what, that kind of thing. And we'll just say, I was like, hey, look, here's what I like to do, because at the end of the day, yes, there's a right and a wrong way to apply finish, but everybody's got their own little things, right? And everybody's going to coat their own way. I don't coat the same way that Cash is going to coat, that my boss is going to coat, that, anybody else, but we're all going to have very similar techniques. We're all going to do things very similarly. So I'll tell them what those things are. I'm going to say, hey, look, we're not going to overwork the finish. We're going to do it. We're going to touch the finish twice. We're going to put it on, even it out. We're going to let it be. We're not going to go in here and work it. And generally I'll do a section with them or, at first to show them. And then maybe I'll get one of their guys in to help. And then, I'll hand the pole off. I don't want to coat all day. I'd rather say, hey, here's the pole. You guys go at it. And as I see little things there, here and there, then we can adjust or make adjustments to that kind of stuff.
Cash, same with you?
Yeah. If a company wants to learn how to roll or a technique and stuff like that, I'm not there to coat the job for them, because I could easily do that. But it's like, hey, you're only going to learn this if you get your hands on it.
Right.
So I'll give them the on-site physical demonstration enough to get it. Like, this is the process, and we're going to repeat this a couple times. But then here's the stick. It's start flying.
For decades, we always had hundreds and hundreds in stock of lamb's wool. The really good stuff, right? I couldn't deal with it. I had trouble with it when I got into things, but then water-based finishes were starting to come through. Are the days of the heavy T-bar over? Because it seems to me that rolling and rolling and rolling, and even the lamb's wool guys, we barely sell lamb's wool. It's 9/16 rollers even seem to be solving the problem. When it comes to water-based, are we just finally into rolling, or is T-bar still something that works?
On the West Coast, we're not rolling 100% yet.
Okay.
I'm working on that. The West Coast is our country.
I think it's a 50-50. There's more rolling than I definitely thought there was going on. I think guys are definitely opening up to it. What I'm happy, though, is that the guys that are T-barring are at least getting away from the heavy T-bars. Right. They're not using those massive ones anymore. They're using the lighter ones, and I'm okay with that. Okay. Because with the water-based finish, really, it's all about consumption and getting, the right amount of square foot for whatever the brand of finish you're using is calling for. We got guys that calling, oh man, I got 900 square foot out of that gallon of easy finish the other day. I'm like, oh, you better go back and coat it a few more times because you don't have anywhere near enough finish on that floor. But if you're a T-bar guy and you can get the right amount of coverage with the right, with the finish, yep, I'm okay with that. As long as you're getting your consumption.
I took a class, a whole seminar on trowels, and there's a million configurations, but what they explained was the idea is that so when you use our product for what you're doing, it goes at the right spread rate. And I've noticed over the decades, I got this number, it's 450 to 550. It seems like water-based finishes, the good ones, have been elevated to a flow rate between 450 and 550, depending. Same with oils, same with everything. And it seems like because of that, if the guys can do that, they're putting the right film down. It's like you said, right. When they get, I used to have a concrete-filled steel pole with a heavy steel head T-bar, and we would get 1,200 feet, and we were proud. And if we didn't, put a little water in it as we're going out the door because you don't want to open another jug. It seems like the industry has finally got us to where everything should go down close to 500 feet. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, I think, getting that I think guys got 500 feet in their mind. I think, and that's a general rule that they're good with. I was mentioning with the T-bar, the reason that we like rolling and teach rolling so much is because we know that with a saturated roller, you dunk it in that bucket, I'm getting 8 to 10 square feet.
Yeah.
And so every time I dip it, I know how far to go. And that creates a much more even and consistent film layer across your floor. With a T-bar, it's possible, and guys are absolutely capable of doing it. What happens is you kind of get that wave across the floor, right, where you add some pressure, float the bar, add some pressure, turn, things like that. And you just get a little bit more inconsistent of a film layer and get that inconsistent, coverage rates. That's why we like rolling. That's why we teach rolling more so. But,
I had a question for you, Cash, because you wrote it somewhere, and I think it's brilliant. And people always talk about, I can do 1,200 feet a day. Guy asked me the other day, how much can I install by myself? I got 250, 350. People come up with these stories. How much can I sand? I can do a whole house. You said slower is faster. What do you mean by slower is faster?
That applies to so many things in life.
Right?
Slower is faster is a philosophy that I have that I learned from the fire department, where they call it fire ground pace, where you need to be going fast, but you're not running, but you're efficient and you're methodical in all your motions, and that's with the sand and finish or installing. You make every movement count. But you're doing it precisely. You're not working at breakneck speed just because you can't. You're not when you're doing that. You're cutting corners and you're missing things. I mean, that's how you get lightning bolts or stair steppers or H joints, T joints. My dad calls them T joints. I grew up calling them T joints. T joints comes off the tongue better. Or a joint on a joint. Those all happen because you're just trying to go fast. And when you're going fast, you're going sloppy. Yep. And when you're doing that, this is what my uncle used to always say. If you didn't have time to do it right the first time, how in the world do you think you got time to fix it?
You don't.
You don't.
And you lose confidence in your client, and by the way, then they start piling on. Well, I didn't like the closet. And by the way, oh boy, here we go. And right.
Then it looks like a confetti gun went off in the house.
Right?
So that's the slower is faster is and that also goes into that. What's that Abraham Lincoln analogy that you give me 6 hours to chop a tree down, I will take 4 hours to sharpen my axe.
Right.
2 hours to actually chop the tree. That falls into that whole thing of machine maintenance. Taking your roller out and cleaning it, making sure the tracking's right, clocking your edger, clocking your buffer, all those things. Taking the time to get those things right, make everything faster.
You know what? Knuckle in, right? Somehow you said it. You slow down. You cannot afford to screw up. Now you're going to start over. I think you're exactly right.
Well, there are a lot of times that, Dad and I would be on a job, and if we're doing some intricate install, we're doing a herringbone wrapped around something or another, we're getting at the critical point. And like I said, we've been working all day and you're getting tired and you start making bad cuts, or you start doing this, or man, that board just won't get in and your frustration level gets high. Man, there were so many times that we fought through it, and we got it done that night, but there might have been something we had to come fix the next morning or finish up. And that finish up took a quarter of the time. We really got to where it was, hey man, once we start getting like that, we're done.
Right.
Because what we found was we're spending more time tired and angry and snapping at each other because we don't want to be here anymore than if we just go home, rest, let our brain reset, and the next morning it might take us half an hour, but it was going to take us an hour and a half that night.
Gotcha.
So being caught up and knowing what your limit is, I think is a big deal.
Well, I think that's that fine line of that slower is faster is knowing that, hey, we're spent right now, and this is that final coat or that whatever phase where it's got to be nailed. And when you're burnt out, you got to know, you know what, there is tomorrow. But there is that that point where at the end of the day, we're like, man, if I coat this right now, it'll take me half hour to coat this versus a half a day of setting up. There's that balance. You got, okay, am I messed up? So am I burnt out and so tired and spent that I can't get this right, that I'm going to be fixing this tomorrow? Or can I get this, take this half hour and knock it out? I think that's a question that every contractor's always got to ask themselves and know to toe that line. And I think Taylor's right on that. There is a time where, and I've been on jobs where it's like 1, 2 in the morning where I just want to get this installed so it's done. Got it installed. There wasn't any mistakes to go fix, but I wasn't ready to sand it the next day. I was now I wasn't, that was that fast part where I'll knock this out. But then coming back to it is like, well, I'm burnt out. I got brain fog going on. I'm just not in the game right now to sand this floor.
You got to have your head in game, right, Tyler? That's just how it goes.
Yeah. It's knowing your limits, right? Some guys might be able to do that, but everybody has a burnout point, and everybody's got a point to where, hey, if I just stop this install now and I come back in the morning, when I finish the install, I can start sanding. Whereas, like Cash said, he was done for the next day. So everybody's got their limits, and knowing those limits and knowing when it's worth it, because there are times where, this is our only option. Our donkey's in the ditch. We have to get this done. We knowing when that time is appropriate is a big deal too, as well. Knowing your limits and knowing timing really could help a lot.
I can't focus now. Your donkey's in the ditch. Give me that one. We don't have what. You hear that, Cash? You hear that? Your donkeys. I always say, don't be the donkey. What's the donkey in the ditch? Your donkey.
It's a biblical reference, and I don't remember exactly what the story was.
Makes sense. So, try getting one out. I would imagine it's difficult.
It was a farmer had his donkey in the ditch on a Sunday, and nobody was helping, but Jesus helped him get the donkey out of the ditch because you weren't supposed to work on the Sabbath. But it was when your donkey's in the ditch.
And who was a carpenter? See how we brought that all back around? Listen, I'm going to let you guys escape my clutches, but I'm going to give you a couple. We do a lot of quick fire questions, and because there's 2 of you, I'll just give you a few of them. The idea is I ask you, you answer me as quick as you possibly can, and then you can escape. So we're going to start with Tyler. Are you ready?
Yep.
What would you be doing if you didn't get into hardwood flooring at all?
Oh, that's a great question.
See, I'm good. I'm on fire today.
It would probably be construction-based of some sort. I love working with my hands, so it'd probably be somewhere in the field, whether it was actually building or something like that. If it wasn't actual hardwoods, it would be something hands-on, something where I'm working with my hands and building. And Cash, what would you be doing if you weren't doing hardwood flooring?
It would be something artistic.
Okay.
I have to do something with my hands too, but it would be something that that's the part I like about hardwood floors. It's the artistic part of it. So,
Cash, what drives you crazy? You got a pet peeve in flooring? What just drives right over the top?
Pet peeves. Oh, that's a long list. What's my biggest pet peeve? Probably not tack clothing a floor.
Dirty floor. Tyler, back to you. Biggest pet peeve in flooring?
An unorganized van or truck.
Some people don't like that. All right, we'll stick with Tyler. Okay, how about they put out the Lifetime movie for floor experts? Who plays you in the movie?
Oh, no idea. Probably, I don't know, Tom Hardy when he's really big.
Yeah,
Not the skinny Tom Hardy.
It's hard when you're that handsome to come up with an answer like that.
Great look, right?
Cash is all set up. Cash, who plays you in the Lifetime movie? Come on.
David Duchovny.
Oh, I see that. Tyler, you see that?
Yeah, I can see a little bit.
A little quantum leaping going on? I'm seeing it. All right. Tyler, in your home, where you live, apparently it's in your automobile. Is there carpet?
Not a single stitch.
God bless you. Cash, you guys, I see your dog looking over your shoulder. Is there carpet in that house?
I got no carpet, and this is my kid's room.
Woo!
Saroos, buckle.
Good for you guys.
I've got wood in my bathrooms. Are you kidding me?
See that? Now that's a real man right there. Wood in the bathroom. God bless you both.
I haven't got to my bathrooms yet.
No. Everybody's show me videos. Yeah, whoa, he's got flooring all over the place. Look at that. Is that all chevron? Woo.
My favorite. This is where all the magic happens, guys, if you're wondering.
Spiffy. Wow.
It's all dark.
Look at that. Hey, listen, you guys are the Floor Pros, Floor Pro. I really, really, really appreciate you spending this time with me.
And the only
Thanks
thing
for
I
having
have
us.
is that all the wood in my house, all my flooring, was hand milled by me.
Was it?
On top of that, yeah.
Overachiever.
We need to talk about him, man. He's lost it.
All right.
That's
time
taken
for
it
that.
to a whole other level. All right, boys, I'm going to let you escape. We will talk soon, and I really appreciate you guys. We will talk.
Thanks for having us, man.
Anytime. Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
You got it.
This episode of All Things Wood Floor is brought to you by Loba-Wakol, which offers industry-leading products for wood flooring pros, from water-based finishes to subfloor products and adhesives. Thanks for listening to this episode of All Things Wood Floor. If you liked this episode, please remember to rate and review All Things Wood Floor, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode.